Brings us to our public hearing. And Mr. Sander, can you lead us?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Recall that the board opened a public hearing several meetings ago to consider enactment of the OLI Overlay District Ordinance Amendment to the Joint Municipal Zoning Ordinance. At that first hearing, the ordinance was tabled. At a subsequent meeting, it was not taken off the table, and now we're back for our next meeting following. It would be appropriate for the board to initially consider a motion removing the ordinance and the public hearing from the table so that they can continue.
Would we have that motion to take this off the table?
So moved.
And do we have a second? A motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Mr. Solicitor, is it appropriate for public comment on this?
No, this is a procedural issue.
I thought I remembered that. Seeing no questions, all in favor of taking this off the table, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-1. So now we can.
It is off the table. It is now back before the board. This is the continuation of a public hearing to consider the enactment of the OLI Overlay District Amendment to the Joint Municipal Zoning Ordinance.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance amending the JMZO to establish the OLI Overlay District.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, very good.
With regard to the motion in the second, Mr. Chairman, that's great. It would be appropriate for any board discussion, and then we would ask for public comment.
Absolutely. Just go in there. You beat me to it. Questions from the board?
I have some questions. I note that there are representatives from the Bucks County Planning Commission here, which are the primary authors of this overlay. Is that correct?
Yes, Jeremy Stoff and Lisa Wolf are here.
And they're willing to answer questions, I assume. And I did send you a couple of questions that I had this afternoon. I'm concerned about the residential density. And it's mentioned in this overlay that the maximum density can be 20 units per acre, something like that. Whereas I note that the Bucks County Planning Commission really opposed another development in town that had 20, it started off with 20 units per acre, and you wrote a criticism saying that was not appropriate because the maximum density in Newtown is about 3 or so housing units per acre. And I note that many people on the Planning Commission were opposed to that kind of density. So I'm just curious as to why you have one view of density in one area and another view of density in the Commons area. Can you explain your thinking there?
Mr. Chair, is this the end of board members' comments? I thought that was first.
Well,
And then you're going to have them come in.
okay. When we have other board members' comments, that way you can address them all at the same time.
Well, no, I don't have any. I'm just wondering if Mr. Mack is going
Yeah,
to.
Well, I have another, I could go on, if that's how you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's one question or concern that I had. The other was, I find this was inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, which the Bucks County Planning Commission also authored. And according to the comprehensive plan, the land currently zoned and available in the Jointure residential zoning district is more than adequate to accommodate future development between now and 2030, even assuming that only a portion of the districts are used for development. So I'm curious as to if the comprehensive plan says we have enough already under current zoning, enough space under current zoning for housing, why it is necessary to have additional housing allowed in the Commons area, which will add to traffic and congestion. And so, you know, there's some density issues that I have and some inconsistencies with the comprehensive plan. I mean, I'm just wondering why we have a comprehensive plan and we're not, and we're already, before it's even, I think it's not even finally approved, we're asking to make more housing development in the township and other areas, changing the zoning just for that. I noticed that there's going to be in the area that's under consideration here in terms of housing, you're talking about mixed use and where there's commercial space on the bottom and apartments on the top. You were very, the commission was very adamant about that from way in the beginning, but I just sort of recall that this overlay never really, it didn't start off including apartment use. It had, the plan was to help businesses in this area. And I don't see how having apartments in that area helps businesses. I can see the retail. We talked about helping businesses because there used to be maybe 15,000 employees there, and I'm sure 80% of them could not afford the type of housing that would be developed there. But they would be able to use the retails like little delis or dog grooming or whatever, dry cleaning, that sort of thing, have access to. And I find that is really what I think is important in developing this overlay. But you're going to have people who currently own property in that area going to want to develop high-density housing. I know Mr. Worthington also had plans for land that he has across from Penn's Trail, I guess it is. I'm not sure what street that is, across from his athletic facility. He owns a big plot of land there. And some time ago, when I first became a supervisor, he had a plan for this. It was like a 5-story apartment complex with barbecues in the center and costing a lot of money. And as you know, I think he was involved in trying to get a huge apartment building located where the Newtown Sewer Authority has condemned the land. And so now he borrowed a lot of money, he's got to develop somewhere, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot more of that kind of development in that area if we allow this overlay to go through as it is. So my questions to you were just about how come the density, you have a different opinion of density from one area to another, and how come this seems to be contrary to what you said in the comprehensive plan?
Before you start, Jeremy, I'll just point out that the Planning Commission did recommend that we adopt this ordinance and send it through. Any other comments from the board before Jerry begins? You've got the floor, sir.
All right, thank you, Jeremy Stoff, Bucks County Planning Commission. Thank you, Mr. Mack, for your comments. It's a lot there, so I'll try to work my way through it as best I can, along with Lisa too. So to start off, I think from the beginning of the process, when we were engaged or approached by the township, I think you are right that one of the initial concerns was to provide sort of these kind of service-oriented uses that could help complement the businesses like a laundromat and things like that. But then through our conversations, it became pretty clear to us from a planning perspective that it made sense to include some type of residential use if the township wanted to see, real revitalization of this commons area. And from our perspective, the reason for that was For sustaining the businesses, you really did need to have more foot traffic there. And so the residential component would allow for that. So then the question became kind of how do we want to envision this residential component? And to us, it made sense to include it as kind of a mixed use idea. So we didn't want to propose anything that was standalone residential, nothing that was high density standalone residential. We wanted to include mixed use residential only. And so from that, we then started to think about what did we want the density to look like. And from our kind of knowledge and experience in seeing a lot of these mixed use projects, we have come to understand that projects of less than really like 100 units are almost never financially viable for developers to build. And so for that reason, you kind of, in order to reach that 100 unit number approximately, it becomes really hard with anything less than 20 dwelling units per acre, especially when you take into account the other area and dimensional requirements that we laid out, the parking requirements, and probably most significantly the non-residential use requirement, which we wrote in, which is to require 500 square feet of non-residential space per 10 residential units. So all of these things combined, just the calculations come out that 20 dwelling units per acre made sense. And then also 20 dwelling units per acre is consistent with the permitted density in some of the neighboring Bucks municipalities where we've seen these types of mixed use developments come about. So in Dublin Borough with Dublin Town Center is one example, or the Butler Square Apartments in New Britain Township. Those are two examples where the density is around that 20 units per acre figure. So that's,
Can I just make a comment on that?
yeah.
I mean, the other project I was talking about was Corners at Newtown, which I believe started off or currently is 100 units. And that's something you opposed because you thought it was too much density. So
It was higher than 100 units.
Yeah, Lisa, you should.
But it's down to what, 117, 120? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just add, Lisa Wolf, Bucks County Planning Commission. I'll just add that in terms of the other proposal that you're mentioning, John, we reviewed that in 2023, so we haven't seen, if it's been revised, we haven't gotten a revised amendment. But at the time we reviewed that amendment, the density proposal was for 35 dwelling units per acre. So it was higher than the 20 acres. So that's why we had the comment. And the comment isn't saying that it's bad necessarily, it's just pointing out the density in the surrounding districts and recommending that the township officials determine if that's the direction they wanted to go for the town center district. The TC district is the district right now that site is in. In that district, the TC district is more commercial oriented or has been intended to be more commercial oriented. So there's not even a density, I believe, in the zoning ordinance for that district. I guess in terms of, you had another question regarding the comprehensive plan. It says that there are sufficient units, and I don't think there's anywhere that we pulled from that says more units are needed. It was more just looking at the project, like an overview of what we felt would make it more successful when developers come in to redevelop the area. So I don't really see a conflict there, because we're not saying that you need more units, but in terms of making the mixed use, that district, the mixed use to be successful in that district, that's what we determined.
But you say in the comprehensive plan, the land currently zoned and available in Jointure's residential zoning districts is more than adequate to accommodate future development between now and 23.
Right.
So to me that seems like, well, we don't have to change the zoning, and here you are
Yeah.
changing the zoning.
Yeah, I mean, that language doesn't preclude more, more housing being constructed. I think there can be a variety of other reasons why it makes sense to build more, to allow for more density in certain areas given certain conditions. And I think, I just want to emphasize throughout all of this that we worked in concert with the Planning Commission throughout all of this, and we were instructed to put together something that envisioned the commons in a way that did allow for more residential, and that's what we did.
And if we get, as a township, we get plans for apartment complexes, this is someplace we can indicate for it to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
That we're halfway happy with.
Right.
So.
As long as there's a mixed use component
Right.
to it. Yeah.
Because at some point we're gonna get a plan that's gonna request, and we have to have some place to have them go. So that's my point.